My name is Makha Mthembu, and I haven't made it big as an actor yet, and I haven't made my animated short yet.
This is Indie Not Films.
And we haven't made it yet.
You're listening to Haven't Made It Yet. I'm
Also
Hayden
true.
Garrett.
I'm Yannick Ehret.
And Sam is not here, but here in spirit. She's
Sam's doing the interview.
She's doing the interview.
Because you were on a trip, remember?
Oh, yeah, that's where I was.
Yeah,
And
he's still not caught up on sleep, so Hayden is actually about to fall asleep right now.
Where are we?
We're in your bed. Anyway, today we
do all of our podcasts, by the way.
we got Makha.
Tuck in, everybody.
We got Makha today. She is an actress, originally from South Africa, Johannesburg, and living in LA now. She has a lot of great tips on auditioning and how to make becoming an actor or working towards becoming an actor sustainable.
And I'm excited to listen to this one. Yannick's already given me some little updates, and it's cool that on my own podcast I get to be a listener and be like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know about that. No, that's a little cool trick.
Are we going to hear about what you were up to? Is it going to be an episode about that?
Yeah, we could talk about that. It will be difficult just to say specifics, but
well,
yeah, we can have an episode of.
Do a short one.
Be a short one. Yeah,
short one.
It's gonna happen.
Well, stay tuned for that. For now, it's Makha.
Making it for me means me just being an actor, working exclusively as an actor, not doing other things, and me just working on my art.
I mean, I could be wrong, but it feels like there's a lot more sacrifices in acting specifically because it's like the least stable of, like, if you work in the crew, you know, there's just a lot more crew work out there, and you're not.
It kind of rolls a little bit easier, I feel like, in a way, job to job, than I would assume acting. I mean, acting is like you're auditioning, like there's this whole process. Absolutely.
Yeah, not much of a mental grind, I imagine, where you're like, because you're constantly confronting your own insecurities and all this stuff that in a crew position, you know, you don't really do that. So yeah, I mean, that I feel like, do you think, well, yeah, I guess like big name actors still audition, I guess. No, I guess not.
Some of them don't. Some of them don't. Some of them do. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I dated a cinematographer for like 5 minutes, and he was unemployed, and he was texting all his other cinematographer friends and being like, does anyone have work, whatnot, and being like, we're gonna go out to dinner. And I remember saying to him, like, I can't text someone and go, can you cast me in this?
Right. Yeah. You gotta audition. I was gonna ask you, do you like auditioning?
I have learned to love it.
Yeah.
When I was illegal, when I didn't have a visa for 3 years in Chicago, I would wake up every single day. My alarm was, God, I hope I get it, from a chorus line. So that's what I'd wake up to. Mm-hmm. I'd wake up to that. I would shower, cry, drink my green tea, and then go to the Equity Building and see if I could audition for anything. And that's when I learned that sometimes just auditioning is as much as you're going to get that day. So I actually really do enjoy auditioning. Sam,
do you want to give like a little bit of an intro here?
Yeah,
context?
Definitely. This is my buddy Makha. Makha's an actor, but we met while working at a management company. And we actually sat right next to each other. Our desks were just, at the time, like quite literally, there's a little cubicle space, and back to back, that's where me and Makha were.
We were cubicle mates, yeah.
And then also we lived like right next to each other at one point, like super close. So I would drive Makha back home because Makha did not want to come with me to the office, because I would always. Well, Makha's boss also was like, you gotta come in like.
I used to get to the office at 8. The workday didn't start till 8:30. And Sam, what time would you usually arrive?
Okay, we don't need to go down this memory lane, but it's 9 o'clock. Work starts at 9 o'clock,
which is a perfectly good time to start. But when you're used to 8, 9 is anxiety producing. Yeah. But I don't know how to drive. That's my Los Angeles disability. So when my workday got done, I don't know how either. But when my workday got done at 9 p.m., so 8 to 9, Sam would drive me home. Yeah, and then we'd lament about our days.
Yeah, and we just became fast friends from there.
Trauma bonding.
But we also had a lot in common.
Yes.
Like we bonded over theater.
Yes.
RuPaul's Drag Race.
So much RuPaul's Drag Race. I think actually it was Drag Race that like helped
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what it got, like the ice that broke the ice.
100%.
For sure. Yeah.
And speaking of theater, you do a fair bit of theater acting, correct?
Yes, that's what my training and background is in. So I have like my BFA is in theater, and then my master's is in classical acting. So if a dead white person wrote your play, I am the person you should probably be hiring. I've got like better skills at it than most actors. And I decided to do my training that way because when I was growing up, the best actors on my TV and movies were people like Dame Judi Dench and Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. And what do they all have in common? They're classically trained. They studied Shakespeare. So that's why I was like, oh, okay. So to be good, you must study Shakespeare. So that's what I did. I studied Shakespeare.
I'm from a town that has the Shakespeare Festival in Oregon.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
the Oregon Shakespeare Festival?
Yeah,
Oh
you know
my
about
goodness.
it? I
I've
mean, of course
auditioned for them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And did you get it?
Obviously not. I'm
Well, I don't
sitting
know.
right here in
You
front of
know.
you right now.
Maybe you did a season. I don't know.
I auditioned for them a couple of years ago. I haven't auditioned in a while because like a lot of times for something like a Shakespeare festival, they'll have auditions at the beginning of their season and then cast for the year. So you audition like once a year for them, but some people audition once and they work for them for like the next 5 years. So I haven't auditioned for a while, but you know, I should get back in there.
Yeah, definitely.
Give it some more goes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like we're talking about like growing up and influences.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about like what your life was like as a child and like because you're not from the US.
No,
You're an immigrant.
I am a dirty, filthy immigrant. I am. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. Born in Durban. I don't know if that's relevant to anyone. It's a coastal town. I can't swim. But I grew up in Johannesburg. My mother and I, though, she's a mathematical person. She got her master's in mathematical blah, blah, blah when I was about like 3 years old. And that was in North Carolina. And that was really during the heyday of like Michael Jordan, Michael Bull. So that was like the early 90s. And at the time, because I was about 3 or 4, the US became my earliest childhood memories. And I really thought I was an American. I was like pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States. And so the plan was I had to go back to South Africa. My mother was like, you don't know who you are. So we went back, but I was always going to come back for university. And so when I was looking at schools and programs, because at that point I did know I wanted to be an actor when I was like in grade 12. My mother said, Makha, why don't you try Drake, which is a program in Des Moines, Iowa. And so I looked it up and I really liked the program. I went for an audition day in 2000 and I forget what year, but I went for an audition day. It was in the middle of the school year in South Africa and I didn't tell people I was leaving. So I think I told the head of my program, I'm going to be gone for a while, but I didn't say for what. No one knew I'd gone to the US. I'd gone for an audition, and I just came back after a week and people were like, where were you? And I was like, gone.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Well, it's because I didn't want to tell people what I was doing because I find that people can unfortunately be negative. And so I didn't want to tell people, hey, I'm going to the US right now to audition for a school to be an actor because most people would be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, what is that kind of environment like? Like, it seems like you found your love of acting when you were in South Africa. Like, what were the influences there? Like, you just mentioned, I guess, like, it was probably not looked upon favorably to pursue an acting career. So where did that come from?
I think it came where the only place it could have come from school. I did plays in primary school and in high school. And I remember when I was in high school, we were doing The Crucible by Arthur Miller. And it was a little intense, but I remember being able to handle the intensity. And it was the first time in my life when we were performing where the audience was breathing with me. Like we were inhaling and exhaling together. And I remember when I'd leave the stage, the audience would be like, and so that was my first time that I felt a transformation of it's not my life, it's this other person's life. But up until then, I really kept it to myself because there was a lot of negativity around it. I had one friend who I was brave enough to tell, I think I want to be an actor and go back to the US and act there. And her response, and I'll never forget it, she's like, oh, you'll have to lose a lot of weight if you want to be an actress in America. And so that's like, I think unfortunately I still have that thinking in my brain of just don't tell people what your dreams are because they are not going to support you. And in fact, they're going to poo-poo them. But I have learned that most of the time when someone poo-poos your dream, they're not poo-pooing your dream. They're poo-pooing their own dreams. And they're poo-pooing their own inability sometimes to pursue their own dreams. So I try not to take it personally. I had another friend in the US when I lived in the Midwest who said, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous, but I'm the wrong type of pretty for Hollywood, so I should never move here to act. So like, yeah, like the people can be very negative about what your pursuits are. And I think acting is weird. So I think when people think they're helping and protecting you by saying don't be an actor. And listen, I get it. I am broke right now. I have no money. I have a job interview after this. But anything else, I just would either be really bad at or like I'd be so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like specifically at this company where we met, like I feel like that was like a lot of our conversations too. It's like even also at like when we were working on set together, I was like telling myself this, like me and Yannick, like you really got to be crazy or like you have to love this industry to really endure the craziness that comes with like starting to be a part of this industry.
Absolutely.
It is so unglamorous and so
Yes.
in its entirety, honestly, until you are like quite literally the tippy top. There's just simply
Even then, I feel like you got to do dirty work.
Yes, it's a different type of dirty work, just in a suit now.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like-
and the politics of it, like no matter what side you're on.
Yeah.
It's true.
Do they glamorize acting in Johannesburg the way they do here? Like,
I mean, I think in South Africa, and I can't speak for other countries, but anything happening in the US is always glamorized.
yeah.
So yes, in South Africa, what's happening with actors in the US is glamorized. I remember one of the things we used to talk about a lot was back when Frasier was on the TV show, there was this dog that was a very good actor, honestly. But they used to talk about how he earns more than any South African actor does. And a part of it had to do with exchange rate, but it was just that thing of like, wow, in America, even the dogs are doing well at acting. Like it's just rubbish in South Africa. And it's not true that it's rubbish. In fact, I think when I left, there was that perception. And then it feels like literally 10 minutes later, the South African industry really boomed. And now there are these Netflix shows with South Africans that I'm not on. And I hate watch. And by hate watch, I mean I love watching them, but I'm sad because I'm not on them. Yeah.
So your mom sent you back. I just thought it was interesting the way you said it. When you were 4, you were here, and then your mom sent you back because she thought she didn't know who you were.
Yeah, we went back together because I didn't speak Zulu because that's the tribe I belong to. And so I didn't speak Zulu. I only spoke American English, and I had no memories of South Africa. And this was right at the end of apartheid. So for her, the idea of she has done all these things that her government said she's never going to do, but her child has no idea about anything South African was just unconscionable to her. So we went back home to South Africa.
She wanted you to just get in touch with your roots and know where you came from.
I mean, and I am glad. It's a big part of who I am. I do think about like the alternate universe where we didn't go back. Like, who is that Makha? The Makha who grew up in North Carolina, who just...
And I can't even imagine.
Neither can I, but at the same time I can. I think I was a cheerleader.
Wow, really?
Yes, yes, I do. And I think I was nice and mean.
Makha, what?
You've thought about this.
I have. Yes, I have. And I probably went into like real estate or business, and I probably have a really nice house in Atlanta.
You really think you wouldn't have found acting even here? You don't think that like love for this craft would have transferred over?
I don't know because
Really?
no, I really don't know because I like so much of me loving acting in South Africa had to do with me basically feeling hatred about myself in every other part of my life. Where it was, I never felt like I was smart enough, even though now I do know I was smart, but I never felt like I was smart enough. I was a black girl right after apartheid, so I definitely wasn't pretty enough, and I wasn't athletic. And so when I was acting, it was this one bubble of no self-hatred. Whereas when I remember very specifically growing up in North Carolina, there was a lot of self-love there. I remember like my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Gaddy, was very much about like, you're amazing, you are loving, you should stay away from unloving people. And then I went home to South Africa and had a cousin that called me fat until I was 17 years old. So I think a part of it for me is just the refuge that acting has given me, and I'm not sure I would have needed it in the same way in North Carolina.
Why do you think acting gives you that refuge? I can't speak. Refuge.
My safe space.
Yeah. Why do you think it gives you that?
Because I think the rules of acting make more sense to me than the rules of other things. For example, when we were assistants, those rules were you take it. Whereas when you're acting, there are more options for you of how you can communicate with people. And if someone's talking to you like that, in acting, there are 5 people you can go to and go, hey, this person's talking to me crazy. And so I think just who you are as an actor, there's always room for you. There are all these different types of characters. So whatever you are, there's room for what you are. Whereas sometimes, in life, it feels like there's certain boxes you're supposed to fill. And it's funny that I'm talking about how freeing acting is when it's all about boxes.
Yeah.
But I think when you are used to a bunch of no's, the yeses that acting can give you just feels very real, and it feels very uplifting.
Yeah. And being unique and different is also encouraged in some
Right.
ways.
Whereas
right?
outside of acting, you're a weirdo. Whereas in acting, you're unique.
You're expensive if you're
Right,
the
yeah.
weirdest person.
Yeah, you're boutique. You're special.
Yeah.
Other places, you're just a weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think about like Makha as an accountant, which is what my cousin used to call me fat, said I should have been. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, that's terrible. Like, first of all, I'd be weird. Second, I'd go to prison because I was bad at accounting and I'd usually lose money. I did. I remember being
and like now flashback to when we were assistants and having to do expense reports. It's just truly bizarre. Like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of feel the same with my own career. I mean, like you can't imagine doing something else. It's just in your bones.
Yeah,
I definitely feel that way about you, where like I see you in the way we talk about it, because we've had like this discussion a lot. Like just again the car rides, just constantly lamenting about like what would we be doing like if we had the opportunity to. And yeah, I just couldn't imagine you being an accountant.
No. And do you remember how unhappy I was when we would do expense reports?
Yeah,
I was miserable.
Absolutely,
It was
the
terrible.
worst part about being an assistant.
One of
True.
there are lots of worst parts.
Okay, so not assistant days are over for you.
I need money, so if someone wanted to hire me to be an assistant right now,
let it be known.
But just don't talk crazy to me.
Yeah. Okay, so you came here to pursue acting, and then take us through the experiences you've had and the projects and the different things you've kind of done that has led you to where you are right now in your acting.
So I went to Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, as any international actor does, right? When you're pursuing an acting career in the United States. And I'm glad I went there because it was a bubble. And considering it was my first time not living at home, I'm very comfortable with the fact that it was Des Moines, Iowa. And so that was just very much about like acting and the training of acting. Like, what do we need to do to get to this place and be professional, be on time, just acting. What they didn't really teach was how to get a job, which is
classic.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then I graduated with 2 issues. First, how do I get a job? Second, I'm an international student and no one has really had at the school, they haven't had an international student who's an actor. And it turns out to get a visa in the US as a student, you have to be hired by a company related to what you studied for about 7 years, and they sponsor your visa. I'm an actor. Like, the idea of someone hiring me for 7 years is an actor's dream.
Right.
But I was told that that's what needed to happen after I graduated. I know. And so that didn't happen. But I moved to Chicago because I was like, okay, well, I have a year because I had my OPT, which is optional practical training of, okay, well, you get 365 days to go try and make it work, but you cannot do for money anything you did not study in college.
Quick question. Wow. Did you apply anywhere else, or was it just because you're off your mother's suggestion, Drake, and that was the only place that
Drake was the only place I applied. It was the only place I was interested in, which is something I think about like now in hindsight.
I was gonna say,
of like what a choice. Specific. It was specific, but I think if I were to do it differently, I would consider going to the UK to study instead. Like, I don't think I'd consider another school in the United States. I would actually think about maybe going to the UK, especially because as someone with a South African passport, it's a little bit easier for me with visa works and paperwork stuff rather than here in the United States.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was only to Drake.
Wow.
Choices, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
Going to Iowa, I'm
Yeah.
just like, of all places.
I mean, it was a real culture shock, honestly. I was the only black person on my floor. There was another black person in the building. Her name was Prudence. And the amount of times people would say, look at me and go, "Hey, Prudence."
Oh,
Oh no.
And I go,
not
it's
me,
the other
not
black girl. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was actually a real culture shock, like being in Des Moines. But again, there's only so much trouble I can get into in Des Moines. For example, I can't go back to IHOPs in Iowa. That's fine.
What?
Oh,
Makha, please,
okay.
what? You didn't tell me this.
Well, it's not relevant. We go to IHOP here all that. Like, I can go to
I don't know.
IHOP here.
It's
Okay,
just
but
like a
if
formative
you-
moment.
Right,
in
like
your...
if you ever go like, oh, let's go to IHOP in Iowa, then I'd have to tell you like, oh, I
what
actually
did you do?
can't.
Like, did you just like?
I just had like one of those drunken college things where I was
mean,
drunk and then I threw
How
up.
do you get kicked out of
and
IHOP?
then-
That's what I
But,
want to know.
like,
It seems
of
kind of
then they-
difficult.
But then they called the
state.
police. And then
What were you doing?
I was drunk.
Girl, yeah,
Doing
okay, that
what?
makes sense. I get that, but
I
so
don't-
were you just not eating
I'm
pancakes?
not a really good drinker, and I don't know why I keep trying. But
What are you trying to achieve?
Isn't that the truth, right? What am I trying to
Yeah.
achieve? But yeah,
I'm
no.
jumping ahead.
Were you like,
Yeah, no, for sure.
were you
But
stealing pancakes? Like,
no, I mean, I think I just came to in the bathroom by myself,
oh my god.
and everyone had gone, but my friends weren't gone. Apparently, they're in the parking lot and they couldn't get me out of the bathroom. But then the IHOP attendant called the police,
Okay.
and they were about to put me like in the drunk tank. But then a friend of mine bribed the IHOP attendant to drive me home.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's an option.
Yeah, right?
It's like that is a solid move.
The only thing I really remember about it is I didn't have a cell phone at the time. And I had a room phone. So the only number I had memorized was my own room phone. And the police officer was like, we need to call someone. You need to give us a number. And I give him a number. And he goes, and if I call this number, who's going to pick up? And I went, Makha.
I mean, you weren't wrong. You weren't wrong.
And I remember the two of them laughing, being like, this is a waste of our time. So naturally after Iowa, I moved to Chicago because I just spent 4 years in Des Moines studying theater. I wasn't about to move to Los Angeles. That seemed ridiculous and crazy.
You can't go to IHOP anymore.
Well,
You gotta
like,
go to terrorize
You're really
Chicago.
caught up on this IHOP thing.
yeah.
I'm just so like bewildered. I didn't know this.
So I wasn't going to go to LA because I was like, I have know nothing about film and TV. And I wasn't going to go to New York because before my senior year, I interned in casting at the New York Theater Workshop, where, if you're not familiar with them, they invented the musical Rent. And during that time, when I say I was an intern in casting, I mean I worked with them while they were working on Peter and the Starcatcher, and we were doing auditions for that.
Oh my god, I saw Peter and the Starcatcher. I loved it.
I helped cast that.
Wow.
Yeah.
that's- I literally like I went, I think, with my siblings, and like I was just like, this is a show I needed to see. That's so funny.
It's good. I remember.
I loved
like,
it. Christian
yeah.
Borle.
Yeah, Christian Borle. Yep.
Wow.
Like when I left, I left after they had finally done their table read, so then they were going to move on to the next phase.
That's so exciting.
But yeah, like it was really amazing to be not just involved in casting, but like to get to see auditions. So I was seeing auditions off
So
Broadway, in New York City, of professional actors. And it was illuminating in the way that I wish other actors knew what I knew and saw what I saw. Because so the roles they were auditioning for specifically, I think it was for Christian Borle played Black Stash, right? Okay, so that means that they were auditioning, they were looking for Peters, and they were auditioning Captain Hook. Why can't I remember that? That's so stupid. But they're auditioning. So those are the two roles that they had open. And so first of all, just at the beginning of the process, listening to the Disney rep really talk about who they wanted. And then our casting people being like, well, we brought all these people, like you should see them. And so I got to be reader in the audition room, and then I also got to be the monitor outside. And I remember calming down all these actors and being like, it's okay. Whoever's, just go in there, live your life, do your best. Whoever's supposed to get the job essentially already has it. So you just go in there and enjoy yourself. And they're all like, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. I'm like, yeah. And it was just interesting to see like people with MFAs from NYU, from Yale, from Juilliard, and seeing them all come in and doing their best work. And then the auditions finished, and the Disney rep turned to the casting at the New York Theater Workshop and said, great, we saw all your people. Can we now go with the person I said at the beginning?
Wow.
I know.
That's wild.
It was just one of those things of like, so what we do as actors sometimes as like in auditioning doesn't matter.
That's not encouraging.
Honestly, I feel like that's almost like relieving in a way.
It was
Oh,
a
okay.
relief, actually.
It's kind of like, in a sense where you're like, all right, well, they have this picture. Like, why? I'm just going to give them my take. Why not?
Yeah, it was a relief. It was kind of a relief of, oh, so the outcome essentially is predetermined. So when you are on your way to an audition and you're terrified about what's going to happen in the audition room, what's about to happen in your audition room doesn't matter. So what you're terrified about doesn't matter either. And it was a fascinating experience because then, like, because you hear how they talk about people after they leave the room as well and being like, wow, have they said things like that about me? And I think about considering how much they didn't matter. I remember there was one actor who was amazing and they brought him in a bunch of times and they didn't use him because he wasn't famous enough. But the casting at the New York Theatre Workshop really liked him and was like, okay, well, if you have a workshop, anything, we should use him. And like now that person is Joseph Sikora and he now has his own spin-off of Power after like that Power show got finished. Now he has his own spin-off.
Wow.
And I just think about like that kind of thing of, okay, so he didn't know where he was going to end up, but
Right.
like now I've gotten to see the whole trajectory of it and his auditions didn't matter, but he still did a good audition, but he did it for himself.
Yeah.
So
they did end up mattering in a different way.
yes,
Yeah, like
very
the
much so.
audition
And
got him
right,
something
and
else.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like once you understand, like the audition is not to get a job. That's a lie. An audition is to go and say, hi, this is me. Aren't I amazing? You should use me at some point. And so right, exactly. And so having had that experience right before I graduated from undergrad really determined a lot for me. So I knew I wasn't going to go to New York. I was like, I can't compete with these actors who just graduated from like Juilliard and Yale and NYU. They can barely compete with themselves. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Chicago. It is a smaller market. They have theater and they have film. And of the decisions I've made, that was probably the smartest because of like what I just said of it's a smaller market, but for whatever reason, it can output as much as a bigger market. And so when I was there, about a month before my optional practical training ended, I booked a job that I was not able to keep because they were not about to hire me for 7 years for this show that was only going to be about 7 months. But it was
It has to be 7 years with the same company?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That is,
it's just
I know
brutal.
the rules are like crazy.
It's like a hate crime. I don't know if it's exactly 7 years, but it's like 5 to it's a number
too
of
much.
years. It is. It's the kind of numbers that if you are an actor and you've been working somewhere for that long, you are now getting like syndication money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't syndication like 6 years, 6 seasons?
I think it's 100 episodes.
Oh, so it doesn't matter the season count; it's the episodes.
Yeah, if I remember right. I'm not sure.
So yeah, I decided to move to Chicago and I booked a job at the Looking Glass. It was a revival of a show they did a decade ago that won a Tony a decade ago, and it's going to be directed by the Tony-winning director who wrote the show. And I was going to be understudying 3 tracks, and I was at rehearsals for a month before my contract ever started.
Wow.
But they
Just
still
for free? You were just
Yeah, I was free labor, yeah. But they still let me go when I told them about my visa. And they scolded me and said I wasted their time and I should have told them. And that started like a real depression for me because when my visa ran out, if you can't leave the US on an expired visa because then you're put on a watch and you can't come back for 10 years. So I chose not to leave. And so because of that, I wasn't able to go home for 7 years and it just broke my everything. So that was Chicago. Luckily, there was still one theater I was able to work with. Their name is Teatro Vista, and I worked with them for 2 years. And I did Romeo and Juliet with them for 2 years. Not 2 years straight, but it was like 3 months here and then like 2 months there.
yeah.
And that was at least something, and it kept me alive for a little while, especially spiritually. So yeah, I did that, and I did one other show, a 2-person show in Indiana, which was fun because I'd take the train down from Chicago and I felt like I was Don Draper. And like I said, it was a 2-person show. And what's fun is the person who was acting opposite me, it was her first play. And her name is Toya Turner, and she's one of the leads of Warrior Nun now.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. So it's that thing of like when you say it can happen, like I'm very aware that it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're auditioning for all these things. What are some things that you took from your time helping with the casting in New York? I mean, obviously that mentality of nothing really matters in a way, but are there any like just hard facts, tips that you were following that you had picked up there for your auditioning?
The nothing matters is the most important, I think. Hard
Yeah.
tip of just don't even bother being nervous. It is a waste of everyone's time. That is the most important. I think after that, I don't think there is anything after that.
Yeah.
Like after that, everything they teach you about auditioning is still technically correct. But once you know that thing, it determines all the other things. So for example, if it's not an audition where, like if it's a monologue audition as opposed to sides, sometimes you'll pick your monologue trying to be like, I need them to see me as this person. But if you know it doesn't matter, you'll pick a monologue that you just enjoy, that you are good at, and then they'll call you back anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Since then, like working as an executive assistant, because I was on a talent desk which had 33 actors on it. There are things I've learned there that are more business things that I just also would not have known, and kind of similarly to when I was a casting coordinator at Disney Animation. There are things there that I've learned that are very business things that, again, a lot of actors just don't know.
Yeah.
So how did you get to? So you were in Indiana, in Chicago. You're
Yep.
doing this play, and then what brought you out of Chicago?
So I was always going to go to grad school. Like considering I had said I'm going to go to the U.S. because of people like Ian McKellen. And I didn't go to the U.S. because of people like Ian McKellen. I came to the U.S. because of my history. But considering I wanted to be a classical actor, I knew I wanted to go to grad school. But my time in New York told me to not go to grad school for the sake of going to grad school, because they were unemployed actors from NYU. They were unemployed actors from Yale. Where you go to does not guarantee you a career or work. So I understood that if I go to grad school, it's going to be because of the training, and I must want that training. So I took a little bit of time to decide where I wanted to go. I knew it was going to be a classical program, and it was between a program in Washington, D.C., Shakespeare Theatre Company, and the Old Globe in San Diego. And obviously I had pros and cons for both. The biggest pro for the program in San Diego was, considering I was living in Chicago, the weather was warm. And if you get accepted into the Old Globe, they only accept 7 students, so it's free. The biggest pro to the program in DC, Shakespeare Theatre Company, is that it's a 7-minute walk away from a Nando's.
Actually, a really key fun fact about Makha. 100%. This girl is obsessed with Nando's.
I love Nando's.
Yeah. What did you get banned from in Chicago? I guess what fast
I
food
got
chain
banned
is?
from nowhere in Chicago.
Okay.
Thank you.
Up and up. Turned a new leaf.
Yeah, new leaf. I'm great in Chicago. Chicago loves me.
Okay. And Nando's apparently.
I mean, I love Nando's more than it loves me, to be honest with
Okay,
you.
well.
But the first ever Nando's in the United States was a 7-minute walk from this grad program that I was thinking about going to. Unfortunately, that was like the major pro for the other program, so I did go with the Old Globe. Right?
I mean, that's on sacrifice.
Right? Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
a sacrifice
I
you
did.
made.
That is a sacrifice I made. And so I
you gotta.
Not being a
Not be-
7-minute walking distance.
7-minute walk.
You should just get stock. Is it a publicly traded company?
Okay.
Just get
Yeah.
stock.
I wish I could.
Best.
Yannick, have you had Nando's? Do you know what Nando's is?
I was in UK and I had it
Okay, good. So you know.
recently. Yeah.
In case anyone listening doesn't know, it is this grilled Portuguese style chicken from South Africa. It's from South Africa.
Oh,
I
I
think
didn't
that's
know
part
that.
of why I'm obsessed about it. Yeah, no, it's
know
from
that.
what?
I had it in London too.
Yeah, because we export it.
Everybody
It's good.
thinks it's England. I think
It's wrong. They're wrong. Everyone's wrong.
Cheeky Nando's,
it's South
right?
African. Yeah, it's very cheeky. No, it's South African. It's a South African. It's in a South African original, just like me, and it's spicy, just like me. So, I love Nando's, but I gave it up to go to grad school in San Diego.
your
So,
biggest sacrifice.
yes,
Yeah.
100%. And again, hindsight, if I'd gone to grad school or school in the UK, I would have had as much Nando's as I wanted.
true.
Right? So I auditioned for grad school and I got in, and that was terrifying because auditioning for grad school for acting usually is a process. And I literally thought to myself, okay, I'm going to do my first round of auditions for grad school, and then after a couple of years, I'll get in. And I got in on my first try, which is a thing that is not supposed to really happen. And I was like, oh, snap. And so when I got accepted, my green card hadn't come through yet. And I literally was now thinking to myself, I already lost basically the acting job that was going to be my big break because of a lack of a visa. I can't go through that again. Like I was I was like, this will break me. Luckily, my green card did come through in time. So I did go to grad school in San Diego. And that's how I ended up in California.
Because they wouldn't have taken.
Absolutely
you.
not.
No. Yeah.
No. Especially considering it was free.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they wouldn't been able to give like funding.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the excuses, one of the reasons the Looking Glass used to let me go. Because Metamorphoses takes place in a pool. And they said, well, we can't insure you if you have no visa.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's weird.
Wasn't a problem for Teatro Vista.
Yeah. If there's a will, there's a way. Come on
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's one of the things I learned being an executive assistant. Where there's a will, there's always a way.
Yeah.
And then you made so after San Diego, you graduated, and then you decided to make your way up to Los Angeles.
I wish it was that simple.
All right.
Okay, so
Complicated.
okay, so upon graduation, acting programs will always have a good acting program has a showcase,
Right.
where they invite agents and managers and casting directors to come and see you. I.e., hey, I'm out in the world working as an actor. Please come see me, see how I am, and maybe you'll use me for something. So we were going to have a showcase in New York and Los Angeles. Los Angeles showcase was on a regular day. The New York showcase was on Rosh Hashanah. I hadn't been intending to go to New York. I love New York. I make sense in New York. I was like there for the summer. Like I was like, oh, I love this place. But nobody came to showcase in New York because we made it on the most important Jewish holiday of the entire year in a city with lots of important Jewish people. So after showcases in both cities, I took a meeting at Warner Brothers Television in Los Angeles. Like there was a dude at Innovative who would later ghost me, but who was working with me in Los Angeles. Logically, much like the Nando's thing and with DC, it would be illogical for me to move to New York after showcase. I moved to Los Angeles, and then got ghosted by all those people.
So they reached out to you like, hey, we really like what you did.
Oh, yeah. They took meetings with me. Like when I say working with the guy from Innovative, okay, here's the scoop. People don't know this. So literally the weekend before my show, okay, I have to go back a little bit. One of the shows I did in grad school was Macbeth. And the way that works at the Old Globe is during the summer, you're not necessarily a grad student. You are like a little actor. And they have big actors come in as well. And so I was a witch in Macbeth. And one of the other actors from outside was just like the porter or whatever. And he pulled me aside one day and he said, hey, my agent saw you when he saw the show and he's really interested in you. I gave him your details. And I was like, oh, awesome. And so the weekend before my showcase, the Friday before the Monday showcase, I get an email from that agent being like, you need to sign this NDA. And I'm like, okay. And then he sends me a scene for as of yet untitled new Star Trek TV show. And I was like, I haven't even technically graduated from grad school and my first ever TV audition is for Star Trek.
Would you have to not do grad school if you would have
We were
gotten the
about to
job?
we were about to be done. So
Oh, yeah, okay.
And let's
So
be
at
honest.
this point, it was just like, oh, a job after graduation.
Literally, it was and like not just
what
a
a
job.
tease.
I know.
Oh my gosh, right? And I watch Star Trek. Like I'm not a Trekkie, but I am a nerd. And when I was in grad school, my fall asleep show was Star Trek. I'd put it on while I felt like
Gosh.
right. And I remember getting that and being like, oh. So I didn't tell anyone because obviously NDA. I remember there were 3 scenes, no script. And I did like my text analysis because I'm like, I have an MFA, I can do this. I did my text analysis. And I remember thinking to myself, just from the scenes I got, I remember noticing, okay, I don't think this person is a Vulcan, but they're not all the way human either. And so I was like, okay, well, I know that. That's something I know. Let's use that when I do this scene. And so I did my audition. Very good. I did a very good job with those auditions. Sent them off. And then the next day was my showcase. Next day took meetings at Warner Brother. The guy from Innovative was at my showcase. And then the day after that, I saw an article released saying that this Star Trek show was going to be the first one ever that the lead is not a captain. And I thought to myself, oh, I just auditioned for the lead of this as of yet untitled Star Trek TV show.
Work.
And I thought 2 things. First was work. The second was they're not going to book me for this. Which,
But
I
you
mean,
did so well.
Pardon?
But you did really well in the
Yeah,
auditions.
but it was the first Star Trek TV show in, almost a decade. And Paramount was going to use it to launch their new streaming service. And so when I was like, oh, I remember being like excited work, but kind of sad of like, ugh, I wish I'd auditioned like literally anyone else.
Right.
And then the casting came out, and obviously the person who booked it because A, she's amazing, and then she's been on The Walking Dead for like almost a decade because business.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was that, and that's interesting that was my introduction into like Los Angeles of what a tease, but understanding the business of it. And it's been pretty much a lot like that ever since.
So why do you think they had you audition? Just because they wanted to do this, like you were saying, they wanted to see some new talent and just use this opportunity to do that? Or do you think you were actually ever in the running?
I don't think I was ever in the running. I think the agent who had me audition, who submitted me, was literally throwing spaghetti at the wall and saying, I've not invested anything in this person. I probably won't invest anything in this person. If they happen to book this, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
it was just like a low risk.
I think so.
Saying that
I think
might as well.
100%. It was
Yeah.
just him throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. And it was, to me, it's mean spaghetti. I was never going to book that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's unrealistic.
But confidence boost, I mean, you nailed the audition, right?
Yeah, but you say confidence boost, but it's that thing of like, you know, if you're the best tree in the woods, but no one's around you, does it even matter?
Yeah. That's deep.
Yeah, that is deep.
Not even the tree falling. Forget the tree
Yeah,
falling.
just-
The tree standing up, but no one ever sees it. No one ever gets its shade. Does it even matter? It kept standing.
Well, the tallest tree in the world is safely guarded. Nobody knows what that is, and it's the best tree.
The tallest, nobody
Is that
knows.
objectively the best tree?
It's the best tree.
Also, nobody knows what the tallest tree in the world is.
No, they keep it secret because they want people sawing around on it, climbing it.
Huh?
So
Who's they?
the conservation people.
I thought it was the tree. Maybe it was keeping its location.
the
secret.
tree is, it's just
No, the tree is
Sending
actually
false
screaming in the
signals.
woods, being like, "Let me be a star."
yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Cast me, Star Trek.
But yeah,
So you're saying after that was you had multiple similar experiences?
very
where-
much so. Like very much so. Like so much so that I think most of my meditations now are about releasing things and not letting my brain go through the same cycle. Because if my brain is always thinking, why is it never me? Why is it never me? That's not a healthy way to live life. Because there's been a lot of time that's not been me.
Well, recently there has been a time that it has been you.
Yeah.
Makha just finished up a play, God of Carnage, correct?
Yes, I did. I was in a 4-person play, God of Carnage, at Milwaukee Rep. And it is funny because I did meet someone else who auditioned for it in Chicago.
Stop, really?
Coincidentally, I did get to have the other moment of like, and I wanted to tell her, I wanted to be like, you know, I'm usually you, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's like, it seems like a very similar feeling, I'm sure, for a lot of actors to feel this way.
It is. Like, we all feel this way. Like, it happens to all of us. And I think about how the actor who got the role I auditioned for, I don't know what her life is like. I'm sure there are roles that she doesn't get that she's always like, why isn't it me? Why isn't it me? Why isn't what I've done good enough?
Right.
Like, I think all actors think that.
I feel like you kind of have to, and film maybe in general, kind of be content with the fact that you might never get anything and have to kind of find joy in just the act of trying. Like I've been to the point where I've been like, maybe I'll never be able to make the movie that I want to make, but I don't know, just finding a way to get money in another place or whatever it is. But like, you have to kind of come to terms with the fact that there's just no security, and there's just no security. You might just never do anything, and
Absolutely.
figure out a way to just love the attempt.
I think that's the phase of my life I'm in right now, where I want this. I'm never going to stop pursuing it. But I think it is healthy to start saying to myself, well, what if it never happens in
Yeah.
the way in my brain I think it should happen? Like, what do I do to make me happy and
Yeah.
to make me continuously artistically fulfilled?
Exactly.
Because I think maybe the hardest part is the other things you have to do for the money. Like, that to me is the thing that kind of squishes me down the most.
Yeah.
All the other things I can actually really deal with. I can deal with not getting the job and someone else getting the job, because my mother being a mathematical person means that I understand the concept of the law of large numbers, which states that if there are enough numbers with any activity, if you do it enough times, the desired outcome will happen. So for example, if you throw a ball at something and you're trying to hit it, no matter how much you suck at throwing, if you throw it enough times, statistically speaking, you have to hit the target a couple of times. So that's how I kind of think about acting, of like, I'm going to stay in it. The law of large numbers is on my side. But in the meantime, how do I make sure my spirit doesn't just completely collapse?
You have to make it sustainable somehow.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I guess, okay. So I'd love to talk about, like, I guess, the things about acting and, like, the roles that you've played that have given you, like, so much joy and fulfillment. What roles have you played that you feel like have spiritually really just, like, wow, I am an actor.
Yeah.
This is it, baby.
They've been like a couple. Like one of the ones I think about is at some point in grad school, so going to grad school for classical acting was such a smart decision in terms of technique, but in terms of culture was a really stupid decision, because when I went to grad school, I realized that the term classical means white. So I went to school for white acting. So every single day in school, I was told I was wrong in a lot of different ways. And I remember, like, after an acting scene, once in acting class, my acting teacher was like, ugh, I just don't know about you anymore. Just like, when this student says it, like, I believe it. But when you say it, I just don't know why I don't believe it. And the first year was just torture. By the time I got to the second year and I understood that I'm statistically in a place that is not on my side, I kind of stopped caring, and I was like, fine, I need to put me first. So once that happened, it kind of changed for me. And my last summer there, one of the shows we did was Love, Labour's Loss, and it was directed by Kathleen Marshall, who is a very big deal, like, director in the theater. She did Thoroughly Modern Millie with Sutton Foster. Most people know her probably best as Rob Marshall's sister. He's doing the new Little Mermaid. So, like, I'm like 1 degree away from Rob Marshall. So working with her was amazing. But I remember, like, when I say I didn't care, from the moment we had the audition, I remember afterwards going home and telling my then husband, and he goes, how'd the audition go? And I said, I basically showed the reader my taint. I left nothing on the table. That is, and the funny thing is, that's not a metaphor. I literally bent over so hard to pick something up. I think I actually did show a bit of my taint. So I booked that role.
See, that's a little spicy.
That's the spice.
That's the spice.
That's it. Yeah. So I booked that, and I remember the character's name is Jacquinetta. She has maybe 7 lines, maybe 13 max lines. I remember my last line before I left the stage, audience applause. Just had to stop for a moment. And then when I came back on, I don't have any more lines, and the audience would go, whoa, like, here comes the Jacquinetta. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, you better eat out the palm of my hand.
It's like, no lines, but my stage presence
this scene where I have no lines is actually about me. So like when that can happen, and I remember at one point, even during the rehearsal process, I surprised Kathleen with something and I made her laugh. When I can do that, whether that be on set or on stage, like actually surprise the director, that makes me really, really happy. And it does make me be like, I'm an actor. You made the right choice by hiring me.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It happened as well during I did my first ever feature last year, and it was an indie, and it was a moment again where I got to surprise the director and writer. I made up a line, which I usually know. See, coming from a Shakespeare background though, sometimes you're like, oh, what? You can't add lines, especially with WGA strike. Words matter. But I was like, okay, so this is non-union. It's gonna be my one thing. I'm just gonna make up a line. And it broke everyone. Like, everyone broke. My director broke. My scene partner broke. We had to stop for a moment. And I was like, yes, I'm here.
What was the line?
It was a line about... Okay, so for context, in a previous scene, it's all kind of a virtual reality script, but in a previous scene, we'd seen one of the other characters' homes, and it was disgusting. It was a mess. And so later on in the film, accusations are being pulled out about who the spy is, and they accused the guy whose home was a mess of being the spy. And I literally said, he could never be a spy. I've seen the way he lives. And everyone just died. Especially because it was just a moment.
Yeah,
and it was just,
no,
yeah,
100%.
and it was good, and it was okay. So right
So
now
when is
it
that
wasn't
coming
good.
out? When can we see that?
Oh, Glasses. That's what it's called. I have no idea.
We should find that out.
I should.
I would love to
It's been
watch
in
it.
production now. Post production now for I think almost a year now.
We'll see. Maybe there's a trailer. We can link it.
Maybe.
Oh, a trailer.
Oh, I will have to see first. I don't share my work if it's not good.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm not a delusional actor. I know when I'm not good. I know when I'm bad, and I know when the thing I'm in is not good as well. I respect. It's one of those things I respect about myself. I don't like actors who are always like, "It's amazing" when it isn't. Like, you must be honest.
Yeah.
We all know when something we do isn't good.
But you have some stuff that you.
No, Sam.
No, 100%.
You don't have to lie.
I just had to sit with that for a second. It's a dream big, baby.
But you do have stuff like a reel, I presume, and stuff that you are proud of.
Yes. I have a reel. I'm proud of it. I should probably re-edit it. That's a thing people do every year or so, re-edit their reel. But the things that are in it are good. They are a reflection of like who I am and what I
Send
do.
it to us.
I'd love to. I'm so honored. This is the first time you've wanted to see my reel, Sam.
I didn't know you had one.
I've mentioned it.
Fair.
I've mentioned it a couple of times to
Okay.
you specifically.
Okay, but
When we were assistants, Yannick, I remember how
my brain capacity was so small then.
I know, but one of the things I would complain to Sam about was how much she didn't care about me being an actor. That was
okay, hold on.
That was the
Wait a
thing. I
minute.
literally remember saying, why does no one here care that I'm an actor? Do they not believe me? Do they think I'm lying? Has anyone here even Googled me or looked up my reel?
To be honest,
You
I
didn't
think-
even Google her, Sam?
To be honest, at the time, which Makha knows, that was definitely anybody else's career besides just surviving the day to day.
And I get that.
Was truly like, but also I feel like one, I don't remember this. Two, which I'm so sorry
Lies.
for. I truly don't. Like, I remember so many of our other interactions.
Would you like to know why I specifically remember this?
Sure.
There was someone else in the office who also claimed to be an actor. And you had
Shade.
looked up, claimed. You looked up all their things.
Oh, but
As had I,
wait,
and they don't.
is-
They don't have a reel. They don't have like.
Wait, but
real
Makha, is this the
headshots.
person that I think?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
and I
but
remember,
that's
and I
for
remember,
different
And I remember
reasons.
saying, "But you've looked them up. Why haven't you looked me up?" And you said, and I quote, "Well, when you say an actor, we believe you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. No, you are a successful actor.
Thank you.
You're a talented person. I'm
You
sorry
guys
at
are
the
having a
time I did not
breakthrough.
give you
I'm glad you're having
give
this
you
moment.
your
My flowers.
your flowers.
I
when
came
it
here
was-
to demand them. That's actually why I'm here.
Makha,
And
stop.
actually,
Literally.
Sam did prepare. Sam, pull out the flow.
Okay.
Sam, pull out the flow.
Let me pull up my
For the listener, Sam is presenting a beautiful bouquet.
Oh my gosh, for me.
Always.
Oh, thank you so much. I deserve
Always.
this.
It was
All
not. Oh, God.
Well, for the
Wait, I just. Oh wow! That has turned. We have turned.
It's all happening.
We had so many car rides together.
We did.
all right. Well, for the interest of not having you miss your job interview,
Oh my gosh.
kind of curious about what is next for you. Kind of, what are you looking to do next? How is everything we've learned about you kind of going to inform that? And this kind of goes into the question of in the next 5-10 years, what are you kind of going for? What do you?
I think the next thing for me, other than the fact that I have a job interview today at exactly 4:30 p.m., after that, the next thing for me is other than obviously also I want to be acting more. I also coach actors, and that's one of those things that when we were assistants, it was one of the few things I got to do while there that felt 100% right. Like it felt like, yes, this is what I actually do, not expense reports. So much so that one of the clients I coached on a desk was cast in Barbie,
Heck yeah!
right?
Heck yeah!
And for free. I coach this person for free. And I think about that, and that's the bit that makes me like, that was ridiculous. But I'm coaching more now. much like any business, it feels like it's challenging to get up off the ground. But I'd really love to be coaching more because, like, the way you asked, are there times you feel good as an actor? And I say like very specific times that I feel good as an actor, but there are other times I don't feel good as an actor. I always feel good as a coach. Like, it actually annoys me that I feel like I have more confidence as a coach sometimes than as an actor. Because when you are coaching, the feedback is immediate. You can see if what you're doing is or isn't working. Plus, my master's is a terminal master's. I can technically teach acting at the university level. I just haven't. So like,
Oh, interesting. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
yeah.
Masters, that's what it pretty much means, right? Yeah.
You can teach at university. Yeah. So like, I need to be coaching people more. I had a friend who I coached, who I used to coach for free. I remember she told me, this was before I realized, because I did not have confidence in it until I got exploited for it as an assistant. But I remember my friend saying, oh, ever since I started working with you, my worst case scenario for my auditions is I get a call back. And I said, what? And she goes, yeah, I either always get a call back or I get the role. And that's what's happened with every single time I've worked with you. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is my fee and you don't get to do this for free anymore.
Do you have a website? I think you started. I
Yeah.
remember seeing some you should send that to us so we can link this.
Oh, yes, please. I'd love to.
the
Like, even if you just go to my
podcast.
acting website, makhamthembu.com, there's a button on there. It takes you straight to my coaching website.
Okay, yeah,
We'll
we should
link all
link
that.
it.
Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
please. Yeah. Like I said, I love doing it. It's just really fun watching people grow into themselves. And that can happen whether it be in a 30-minute session or over a couple of weeks with sessions. Watching people be like, just let go of whatever they had that they were nervous about and just be more. Just, it fills me up and I'm like, oh my God, that's my baby. So I love coaching. And I think in a similar vein, I want to create art. I don't just want to be the canvas, because that's what it can feel like as an actor. And I think that's the primary reason I even went to be an executive assistant for a while, because I love to write and I love to produce and I have directed. And I literally thought to myself, I'll go to this place and learn all the secrets. I didn't learn those secrets. I learned other secrets. But like, the project that I am most passionate about right now is a short film that I'm working on called No Child Left Behind. I did it as a solo show in grad school as part of my thesis, my graduate thesis, and then I did it at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. I won an encore award for it, and I want to take it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. But for me, the final goal is I want to make it into an animated short film that becomes something that is watched every year. The same way that there are Christmas movies people watch every year, I want this to be an animated short film that people watch every year, because what it's about is, it's a comedy, but at heart, it's actually about choices and history and how we as individuals are constantly deciding the history of where we're in. But it's hard to know that until after the fact. But any decision we make actively, especially in election year, is history being written in that exact moment in time. And I wrote a funny little play about it, and I'd like it to continue having more life.
Oh, awesome. We actually, our second guest is going to Edinburgh with kind of the show that she talked about in her episode. And she's going to Edinburgh.
That's
She just did
dope.
the Fringe, and it's really great.
That's
we saw
so
it.
cool.
It's a really cool show.
Work. That's amazing.
Yeah, we kind of got to see her talk about the idea of it, because it was just a one act or like a really short, like 15-minute thing, and she turned it into an entire hour. And
Wow.
yeah, it's
That's
really cool.
huge. Yeah.
But yeah, so like I was saying earlier, this podcast is a little bit like a time capsule, capturing you and what you're kind of going through right now. So in 10 years from now, we're going to send it to you.
I better have made that short.
And you can...
Oh, we'll be there.
We're gonna follow up.
Yep.
So
Don't worry.
with that kind of in mind, that time capsule-ness of it, this is your time to send yourself a message in the future. 10 years from now, we're going to send it to you.
Okay.
Take your time.
Oh, hey, Makha. This is past Makha talking to future Makha. I think the first thing I want to say to you is I hope you like yourself, because I know that's not always a thing that's easy. But when you like yourself, life is easier. And the second message is I expect you've made that short, that animated short, and that documentary that we didn't really talk about on the podcast. But I expect you've made those things. But if you haven't, I hope you're kind to yourself about that. And I hope you're continuing to walk in the direction of completing that. because you should, and you're good enough, and the work you want to create is also good enough. And I love you, and that's it.
That's sweet.
That's very sweet.
Thank you.
Do you have any final thoughts? Any maybe tips or tricks for other people beyond showing your taint in the audition
I
space?
think that's really the main takeaway.
I mean,
that's a big one
I
already.
hope that's a big takeaway.
You've given us
for
a lot
people.
already.
I really do
Yeah.
hope that's a big takeaway
Yeah.
because, like, I think we all come from different backgrounds and do different things, and there's so much of what we want to do that is determined by other people. But if we are happy when we show our taints, what else is there?
Just throwing a little Nando's in there, and it's a
And you're done.
party.
And you have
Don't ruin that one.
everything you've
Don't get
ever
drunk in
wanted.
that one.
Oh, I'd never. I love Nando's. And oh my God, talk about time capsule. If I am not an ambassador for Nando's in 10 years, I don't know what was happening in my life. I don't know what.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for
It's a
having me. This
pleasure.
was
Thank
fun.
you for joining.
Yeah. Imparting your wisdom onto the world.
Thank you.
And your story.
Sorry again for not looking you up sooner.
It's okay.
You guys are gonna have to have a conversation.
We
Yeah,
talked
we're gonna
about
go.
it.
I'm about to drive Makha to her interview.
Oh, it's an awkward ride
Yeah,
home.
I mean, and the irony is, what is the name of my website? It's makhamthembu.com.
Okay.
Like, it's just my name
Yeah.
and my surname. It's not a trick.
Have you
It's
looked
like
at my
you're not even
website?
trying. Oh.
Oh, and it seems like now it's time to go.
I'm just glad I'm not in this car on the way back.
You have a website? I will be looking it up today.